Hi, I'm Dr. Kari Barron with It as well, and I wanted to go over a few things that I use for my clients on a regular basis. And one of the things that I think is really important to look at when I'm working with clients is to go over their emotional well-being. I think your mindset, how you feel about things, what your stress level is, all of those kind of aspects are very, very important. And a lot of times it is hard for us to intellectually process emotions and work through things in our heads. And using tools like homeopathics or flower essences can be a very valuable strategy. And so, all of my clients, when we first initially get together and start working together, I have them fill out a questionnaire, and I call it a Bach Flower questionnaire because flower essences, you can make a flower essence from any type of flower that you want. But Bach was actually a doctor back in the 20s that was looking at using natural therapies and came up with a 38 flower remedy kit. And so his kit is really very encompassing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of teach you a little about Bach flowers, and then we'll go into the specific remedies. So Bach flowers are something that I use all the time. Every one of my clients can get free Bach flowers from me as we're working through programs together because I feel it's that valuable. And I'm going to give you a little background as to how I came upon this and why it's so important to me. Years ago, I started working in natural health by working for a supplement company. And I had heard from one of our buyers that she was using a lot of flower essences. And I thought, hadn't heard of those before. Didn't have a ton of time to research it, but I thought it was an interesting concept because emotions work on frequencies and flowers have frequencies. So if you can transfer that frequency from the flower into water and then ingest that or put it on topically, it's not very specific with Bach flowers in particular or flower essences in particular. And that good frequency from the flower to deal with that emotional situation can be very useful. So I had heard about them, never used them, and this was 10 years ago when I was first introduced to them. And it was during a really dark time in my life. My parents had both been diagnosed with cancer at the same time. They both went the total allopathic route, doing chemotherapy, surgery. My dad actually died in six months basically after his initial surgery and doing one round of chemo. He never survived from that. Really hard for me to deal with. My mom did all of the natural, all of the allopathic regular medicine things. She's still around today, and I'm thankful for that. But I had had a MRSA infection in my leg that made a really deep hole in my leg because I was so stressed about different things. I was having difficulties at the job that I was working because I was trying to hire employees to work because we had been so busy, and I couldn't get anybody that really understood and had a passion for natural health. And that was something that was really important for me. If I was hiring someone, I wanted them to have that. My son was getting into that kind of period where starting to spread his wings a little bit more as an or just a little preteen, and I was perimenopause, so my hormones were all over the place. And so that clash was happening frequently. So, stuff with my parents, stuff with my own physical body. My husband and I were having some marital issues, like everyone goes through those seasons, my kid. And here I am starting my first week of actual naturopathic doctor training. And the first day was on emotions. And all I wanted to do was go back to my room and sit in a hole and cry. And, if I could have disappeared, I probably would have. But I was so impressed by the information that we were given. And I went through and they had done the same quiz that I use for my clients right now. And it's more of a touch base to see how they're doing on things. And I always determine which Bach flowers are included because they may not have written something on their questionnaire about how they were feeling, but through the communication, through the conversation, different signals that they're giving me, I will choose the Bach flowers that I think are appropriate for them. And we see really good success with that. So the flower essences were one of the first things we talked about. I loved that, starting with emotions. And I was in such a bad state. It was really good. So they'd, speed up all of the information. I'll kind of give that to you in a little bit, but went through the quiz. I had like 13 things that I had 3 marked on, which is like seriously in a bad situation emotionally. And you have to narrow it down to 6 to 7 of the Bach flowers that you can use. One of them you can use, it covers 4 or 5 different things. So the Calming Essence, Rescue Remedy, Crisis Blend, whatever you want to call it, has 5 remedies together, but it only counts as one. So I was having a hard time even figuring out what to use. And I did my best, figured out which 7 I was going to choose. Crisis Blend or Calming Essence, whatever you want to call it, was one of them. And then I picked other ones. And what you can do is you can drop it in your mouth. You can put it on topically. You can put it in your hand, rub it in. If you want to apply it to someone else, you can put it in your hand and rub it on them. They don't have to ingest it. You can put it on food, water. It's just very simple to use. And there are no potencies of it like there are with homeopathic. So it's technically not a homeopathic, but it does work on the range of frequencies. So here I was wanting to just be done. All these other people were taking way too long to finish their quizzes because there were tests over each section. And you were supposed to do your own little quiz, your questionnaire, and answer that to prepare your own remedy. Well, I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to leave. So I took my first, I did a little squirt in my mouth of the Bach Flower Remedy, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, come on, people, hurry up. I just want to go on break and, go to my room and cry. And my emotions started to change. About 10, 15 minutes in, I felt like God had walked up behind me and just lifted a weight off my shoulders. It was just a miracle in my mind. I was like, I can deal with this. This is working. How is this working so fast? And I just like kind of sitting there feeling the feelings, trying to go, okay, am I really experiencing this, or is it my expectation or what? I was like, I can breathe. I can like deal. And so it was just amazing how quickly that worked for me. And then as the day progressed, if I started feeling tension, sadness coming over, I'd do another squirt in my mouth. And you can use it as often as you want. You're never going to hurt yourself by using it too much. You're never going to hurt anybody else by, or yourself by using that on them or yourself. Because you don't come to harm using Bach flowers. Even if it's not the right one for you, it's not going to do anything negative. So I just had an amazing healing experience with that. So that's why I use it with my clients, because if you can't deal with it emotionally, the emotions intellectually, and really be able to process that you're too far in that stress to trauma mode, having that tool to kind of break that and ease your body into a way of being emotionally balanced is a great strategy. So I use Bach flowers with my clients all the time, and I have clients that haven't been working with me, and say, hey, can you send me a Bach flower blend? Sure, I'm happy to send it to you. What's going on? And, have a conversation with them so I can put the right remedy together for them. So with Bach, and you can, like I said, you can make Bach flower, you can make flower remedies with any type of flower. But the Bach flowers, there are 38 of them, and they are categorized for ease, in my mind, to be able to get to the root of imbalances. So fear has a number of flowers that are within that. So aspen, cherry plum, mimulus, red chestnut, and rock rose. Rock rose is one for nightmares. So if you're ever thinking about that, nightmares when it comes to fear, rock rose is a great one. Aspen along with it. I like kind of using the two of them. Uncertainty would be Serato, gentian, gorse, hornbeam, scleranthus, and wild oat. Lack of interest in the present, so apathy, indifference, that kind of thing. Chestnut bud, clematis, honeysuckle, thinking about things from the past. Mustard, olive, white chestnut, and wild rose. Loneliness would be heather, impatience, and water violet. Being overly sensitive would be agrimony, centauri, holly, and walnut. Despondency or sadness, depression, crabapple, elm, larch, oak, pine, star of Bethlehem, sweet chestnut, and willow. Now, if you have over concern for others, like you're more concerned about taking care of them and worried, Beech, chicory, rockwater, vervain, and vine are all great ones to use. So those are kind of categories to think about if you want to learn a little bit more, dive into them deeply. Be careful online when you're looking at natural remedies that deal with frequencies. I know that God created these flowers to have these frequencies, and Dr. Bach just discovered how they worked, and others of us have been able to utilize them from since then. There is nothing mystical about it. God created those flowers, God created those frequencies to be in there to match up with those emotions. When you use them together, they work synchronously. Kind of a good way of illustrating how they work is that when you're using a flower essence and those frequencies of those emotions are matching up with the right flower essence, it's almost like noise canceling headphones. So you put headphones on and they have a speaker or a microphone that is recognizing the ambient sound, and it will produce frequencies that negate that sound. That's how come it's canceling the noise. So it's kind of canceling the noise of the emotions when you're using flower essences. Homeopathics can do that too, but we're talking about flower essences right now. It's one of my favorite tools, and I will always use them. I use them personally on a daily basis because I just find them to be super useful and easy. And what we want to do is we don't want to get rid of that emotion or that personality of the individual. We want to have a balanced nature. So that's what we look for, is a balanced nature. And I'm going through these alphabetically. It's just the easiest way for me to organize. Agrimony is the first one we're going to go over. Agrimony are for class clowns, the kids that are always wanting to get, be cheery, get attention, hiding fear and sadness and things like that behind a happy face. Agrimony is one that I always kind of think about it. It's like you're feeling sadness, you're feeling stressed inside, but you're always happy. And yes, everything's great. Aspen is another really good tool to use. Actually, they're all good to use, but aspen is fear of the unknown. So a good way to remember aspen is if you've ever seen an aspen tree, their leaves kind of quake, and you've heard of quaking aspens, so like shivering and like, ooh. So nightmares, panic attacks, vague, inexplicable fears. So I don't know what I'm upset about or afraid of, but I'm not feeling right. So the next one is beech. And I've had somebody tell me it's the mother-in-law flower. I had a great mother-in-law. This didn't fit for her at all. But being critical, intolerant, complaining, negative, when you're stuck in that negative mindset, beech is a great tool to use. Indications would be allergies, being intolerant of food or environment, constant complaining, low self-esteem, overly acid physical conditions. pH testing is something that I recommend sometimes with clients to get them recognizing what's going on. Those that are critical of others would be a beech thing, which is sad because I think the beech is awesome, but beech, this is Beech. Centauri is the next one. Centauris are the ones that are very compliant to others. They can never say no. They're a human doormat, easily bullied. When you combine Centauri with pine and larch, it's a backbone in a bottle. So if you have someone that doesn't have a backbone that is easily exploited by others, Centauri is a great one to use. Physical symptoms would be like stooped posture or dark circles under the eyes. That would be somebody who would probably benefit from having some Centauri. Serato are the intellectuals. Their uncertain and distrust of others is very evident. They distrust advice. They are information seeking all the time. Weak sense of self-identity, always asking, is this the right thing to do? And I think I need to research this before I dive in. The people that ask me, has this supplement or herb been tested, and is this good, or how do I know this? Or they're looking into research, they need the Serato. And it's not that I don't want them to be critical of what I'm doing and make sure that they understand things, but when that's excessive and it complicates things, that's when Serato is really important. Cherry plum is part of the Calming Essence Rescue Remedy Crisis Blend, whatever you want to call it. Cherry plum is for fear of losing one's mind due to stress. So it is loss of control, thoughts of suicide. Cherry plum is in there because when you think about a crisis, let's pretend like there was a car accident and you've been injured in a car accident. If you're like in that state of possibly going into shock, great one to use. Tantrums in children and adults are a great way to help them with cherry plum. Nervous breakdowns, delusions, lower back pain on the left side is indicative of cherry plum a lot of times, or even people that just have outbursts all of a sudden. Their balanced nature, once they get that down and calmed, is a really calm mind, think and act rationally, willing to seek and accept therapy. So cherry plum can be a good one for those that are struggling with those types of issues. There are different chestnuts within the remedies that Bach created, and they are all about repeated behaviors. I love to think chestnut when it comes to repeated behaviors because I can hone it down into the specific chestnuts for the client. So chestnut bud is failure to learn from experience. So someone who keeps repeating the same mistakes over and over and over. People that make bad choices repeatedly, or they think it's everybody else's fault, that might be a chestnut bud. Too stubborn to alter their approach, like, no, I'm going to get it done this way, and may not be the best way to do it. Chicory is great for those that are possessive, egotistical, demand attention, jealous. Great for animals that are very territorial. Yes, you can use flower essences with animals. Those that are kind of doing emotional blackmail or self-pity, easily wounded, attention-seeking, bossy, chicory is the one that you want to pay attention to, especially for animals, because you can't intellectually work with them through that. But animals, you got that bossy pet, and you want to make sure that they get to where they're supposed to be. Great one. And even if you had chickens, that you had one really bossy chicken, I know this sounds kind of silly, but you could put chicory in the water and it's not going to affect the ones that don't need it. It's just going to affect that bossy chicken. So even animals can use flower essences. Clematis is also part of that calming essence rescue remedy crisis blend, and it is for unfocused, spacey, inattentive, ADD, ADHD kinds of mindset. People that move slowly and don't really get things done very quickly, poor performance when it comes to details. They always want to sleep. And their hearing and vision problems are indicative of clematis as well. Those that are kind of spacey, clematis is a good one. Crabapple is one that I use a lot. It is great for skin issues. Excellent to use topically. You can just put it on topically. Bach flowers are diluted. Instead of using them straight out of the bottle, you don't need to waste that much money by doing them straight. So I always do them in a dilution of spring water. But crabapple is for skin issues, self-disgust, and I don't know if that's a good way for me to look at it for myself because I do use this, but feeling unclean, poor self-image, obsessive with appearance. And so I tend to have some skin issues coming up here and there. So I think it's a really good one for any type of skin issue. I actually used this once on a 6-month-old child. Some parents came in, he had been diagnosed with eczema all over his body. What can we do? She wanted to do stuff naturally, she said, and then got further into conversation that really wasn't what she wanted. But as the little guy was sitting there, they had put socks on the hands and the feet so that he wasn't scratching or itching himself with his feet, scratching his leg, because he had been scratching all the time. So had those little mitts on his hands, which is terrible for a 6-month-old. They need to tactily learn how to interact with their environment. And so what I did is I put a drop on my hand and I said, can I put this on you, to the mom who was holding the little guy? And she's all, what's it going to do? And I go, you can feel it. It's not going to really do anything, but there, you can try it. And she's like, and I said, can I put this on his foot? So I just took, part of that drop, literally not even a full drop, put it on his heel, and instantly he just calmed down and relaxed into mom's arms. And he stayed calm for a good probably 30 minutes, just totally calm, wasn't scratching, wasn't reaching to scratch or anything like that. So to me, that was a really good evidence that that was a good tool for him to use. When it comes to eating disorders, this would be something too, as far as crabapple being useful for that type of issue. Always look for professional counseling, doctors, when you need to do that. This is an additive thing. This is not in place of that important counseling situation. Elm is by far the one, that elm and walnut and calming essence or crisis blend, whatever you want to call it, are the ones that I use the most. So elm is for feeling overwhelmed. In the middle of that word, overwhelm, is ELM, elm. It's for stress of great responsibilities, unable to keep up with tasks or goals, can't rest, I have to take care of this, exhaustion, depression, won't take any time to relax, which I kind of live in that myself a lot of the time. I just love what I do, and it's hard to relax sometimes. Heart palpitations can come along with that kind of stress. So Elm is a great tool, and most of the women that I work with are exhausted, emotionally spent, and tired of doctors not finding the right thing, and they can't figure it out. So I love helping them figure this out. And this is one of those first steps that I like to give to help them on their way to feeling better. Gentian is, and gentian is spelled Gentian, for uncertainty from lack of resolve, discouragement, when they try something and they fail and they're not really wanting to try again, pessimism, gloomy, depressed, no faith in themselves or others, and just overall depression. Gentian is a great one to help with that, get them to their balanced nature. Gorse is hopelessness, no light at the end of the tunnel, giving over responsibility to others. They'll do better with it. Watery, pale eyes, pale skin, very quiet and not engaged. That's a gorse type of personality. When they are balanced, they're going to have more faith, more hope, happier, and begin really moving into recovery. Heather is for the talkers. And there have been times when I've had a client didn't mark anything on their questionnaire, and I'm sitting there talking to them like, we got to give this person Heather. And sometimes I'll stop them in the middle of the initial part of the appointment. I'll say, let me help you a little bit real quick. Let me just put this drop in your hand. Put Heather in their hand and they rub it around. And I tend to find that they're not talking quite as much. This has been a good one with animals that make a lot of noise. So dogs that bark. And those that are kind of energy suckers, attention seeking, lonely, selfish. And I don't say all of these are the personality of someone with Heather, but parts of these, any of those indicators, the ones that talk a lot, definitely. Heather is the perfect one for that. And people that are kind of space invaders. On Seinfeld forever ago, they used the close talker kind of thing where somebody was really close when they talk to you. That would be somebody that would be Heather. So indications would be for listeners, talking constantly, and space invaders. Holly is another really good one that goes with Heather a lot of times, is anger, hatred, hate, hurt, strong negative feelings. I hate you. I don't want to be here. Physical violence, angry rashes. I know it sounds funny, but a rash can be angry. Those that are really red and irritated. Violent illness comes on without warning. Liver and gallbladder problems, anger, frustration, bitterness, all are emotions that are connected with the liver and gallbladder. This is one of those perfect blends with Holly and liver gallbladder support. When Holly, people who have more of a Holly personality, when they get that balanced nature, they can be strong but generous. They will be able to give without making demands or demanding attention. So Holly is one of those for hate, hurt is an easy way to remember Holly. Honeysuckle, those that romanticize views of the past. So they are always talking about, well, you remember when, and they're homesick, they're tired of things changing. They want things to be the way that they were back in the good old days. Do not embrace new technologies, not a lot of new friends or experiences. They want to stay stuck where they are. And sometimes it's even an inaccurate perception of time. So I find that a lot of times widows will be a honeysuckle candidate. And it really is just that they're trying to learn this new part of their life and a new way to deal with things. And this can help get them over that hump. Honeysuckle is wonderful for that. Hornbeam are for the procrastinators that just aren't even trying. They're not really getting in there. Sleep does not refresh. Their eyes are red all the time. Sleepy, insomnia, overweight, just I'll get to that later, or well, I haven't had time. There's always an excuse and a reason for not getting to it. but they become certain of their abilities when they get that balanced nature. They're fresh, they're spontaneous, they have a clear head, and they have a sense of initiative. So Hornbeam can help with that transition. Impatience is part of the crisis blend, and impatience is probably the one that I need to take by the gallon because I am not the most patient person. I am very quick at getting things done and expect everybody else to act the same way I do. But separation of others because they don't like restraints. I I love being an entrepreneur because I don't like restraints of someone else telling me what to do a lot of times. They can be very quick. No one can work quickly enough for them. And that can happen with me. I'm better. I've been using impatience and it helps me to not be hasty, but to be spontaneous and to be better at working with others. So indications for impatience that are physical would be indigestion, tension, high blood pressure, hot flashes, and lack of sleep. So impatience is in that crisis blend, the one that I said you could use with a crisis calming rescue remedy, whatever you want to call it. That one can be used as a single remedy when you're using it together. Larch is a foundation flower according to Bach. It helps with inferiority, expectations of failure, low self-esteem, no confidence. I don't think I can do it. When I have clients that say, I don't think I can eliminate bread. And I'm like, well, let's try it. I think you can. And if I can include larch in their Bach flower blend to help support that emotional change, that can be a really valuable tool that they're not having to think through and process and feel negative about. So larch, I use a lot of times when someone is stuck in a situation where they're having a hard time getting through one of the aspects of their health. Mimulus is fear of things known. So phobias like I'm scared of flying, I am scared of spiders, those kind of things. People who are easily startled or timid, when you have that shaking, stammering kind of stuttering thing, Mimulus is great for that. Stomach and knots, dry mouth, moist palms, shyness, all of those are fears of things that you know. So Mimulus can be really great too when coming up on 4th of July or when there are fireworks going on. Animals that are afraid of loud noises, giving them Mimulus during that time can help calm their spirits and make them a lot easier to deal with. Mustard is sadness for no apparent reason. Sudden descending gloom, depression, people that are going through emotional changes, menopause, mood swings, those kind of things, mustard is great. And when you can't turn your mind off, and mustard along with white chestnut, if you're having a hard time sleeping at night, that's a really beautiful combination because white chestnut is repeating things in your head and you're not getting able to turn off that recording. Mustard is just, always, I can't turn my mind off. I'm always in high gear. And that can be manic or depressive. It can go both ways. Oak is for those that overwork. If you think about the oak tree, the sturdy one, the workhorse, plodding, bravelessly relentless, just I'm tired, but I'm on rust. I got to get this done. Heart attacks, stroke, those are all things that are indicative of somebody who might want to use oak. People that won't even take vacations or relax, that's an oak personality. All of it is for complete mental and physical exhaustion. Only sleep will help. And that is a lot of my clients. They just really need to sleep. And I'm so tired. I can't barely move, adrenal fatigue. All of those are things that I would pay attention to give somebody that needs olive. Pine is self-blame, guilt. Those that apologize all the time. I have had clients that will apologize for everything, and I'm like, what are you apologizing for? That's not something that's apologizable. Perfectionist. I'm not perfect. It's always my fault. I'm sorry. And you hear that I'm sorry all the time. That is somebody that Pine would be really good for. Those that have guilt complex, overly conscientious, just everything has to be perfect for them. Impotence, depression, and self-reproach. So pine and crabapple, or yes, crabapple, that obsessive concern with dislike for self and self-disgust and self-reproach, pine and crabapple would be really good together in general for people that have those kinds of personality. Red chestnut. Remember, chestnut is a repeated behavior signal. So fear for the health and safety of others, obsessive concern, worrying, call me when you get there. Are you okay? Do you want me to bring you chicken soup? And they have this worry tape running in their mind all the time. I had a friend recently was talking about her son traveling at night through a windy part of the mountains before they came into an area where it was much more open. She was so concerned. She was on her phone all the time looking to see where they were. And that would be a red chestnut moment that we use that for. Lines on the forehead, these direct across lines where they're there without an emotion, that would be a red chestnut sign. Imagining the worst, projecting fear or anxiety over a situation, that would be a red chestnut person to, or not that they're a person, that they're red chestnut, but that would be something for a person to use that has those types of emotions. Rock rose is paralyzing extreme fear. So this is not a mild situation. I have used rock rose very, very few times with clients. The people that usually need this are very visual, like they feel and see something that's going to be happening to them. So scared, I can't move. And they tend to be hyperactive and have a lot of extreme phobias, like extreme fear of spiders, like screaming, running out of the room, hyperventilation, color drains from the face, just that shock, and replaying traumatic events in their mind. I had one client that came in and was telling me something, and I could see she was really building it up inside. And I said, let's pause there for a second. Let's kind of give that a break. I'm going to give you some rock rose, and let's see if we can, if you want to share that with me, that's fine, but I want to do it in a safer way for you. And that really gave her presence of mind after we used it. It's crazy to me sometimes how these frequencies work when the person is receptive to use them and is like, okay, I think I want to tackle this now. And that client ended up seeing amazing results because she was able to encounter that situation, that fear, and take a step back and move through it. Feel the emotion, know it was in the past, it's not happening now, and live with a lot more freedom. Rockwater are those people that are into self-denial, rigidity, stubborn, legalistic, and I am one of them. So when someone is talking about rockwater, it definitely is something that has to do with me. It's the very dogmatic, very structured, very list making. I don't know if I'm so much a list maker. I'm kind of a list ignorer sometimes, but very, very structured in the way that they operate their lives. And anything that's outside of that can really throw them off. Right knee pain is also something that you would be paying attention to as an indication for rockwater. But the beautiful thing is when that balanced nature does come about, they have a flexible mind. They're organized, but not rigid, willing to change mind and their opinions or methods when they aren't seeing success. Those that aren't willing to change the way that they're moving, rockwater is a great tool to use. Scleranthus is for uncertainty in choices, unable to make decisions. They can't make up their mind at all. Wants everyone to be happy, so everybody else is more important than them when it comes to the processing of whatever's going on. I like them both. I can't decide, you decide. Used to drive me nuts when I was in my 20s, and we would be after church, a group of us young people saying, hey, let's go have lunch together. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? I've never been a Scleranthus. I was like, hey, I'm going to this restaurant. If you want to come with me, you are welcome to it. But the people that can't make up their minds and they're more concerned about everybody else, that's a Scleranthus kind of thing. And when it is balanced, they become decisive. So it's not that they're at a loss. It's just a different state for them. Star of Bethlehem is for shocks, breaks, and traumas, sudden joy, things that are in the extreme. Star of Bethlehem is in that crisis blend as well, and it can be really important for injuries, accidents, even physical breaks. Someone breaks a bone, Star of Bethlehem is a great one to use. and unexplained physical symptoms that are acute rather than chronic. So something comes on quickly and they're just in so much pain instantly, or heart issues, stress that were more sudden. Star of Bethlehem is a great one to use. And when you use it, it kind of calms that dramatic effect of whatever has happened in the way that a body is just recuperating from suffering very easily. And these flower essences can work on things that happened in the past too. It's not just immediately what's happening now. It can work on the emotions that are stored in the body that had happened earlier. Sweet chestnut. Remember, chestnut is repetitive behaviors. So deep despair, utter hopelessness, mindlessly self-destructive. So people that are doing things to hurt themselves and don't even know it. Focus on the present, and there is no yesterday or tomorrow. They just have to be right here, right now. Lung issues with grief, lack of endurance, extremely negative. Sweet chestnut is a very big indicator for them. People who have lost a child, like they've lost a child to death, a child that has lost a pet, someone who's experienced a devastating financial loss. All of those are things that are indicative of a possibility of needing some sweet chestnut for a time. Vervain, overenthusiasm. I'm convinced I'm right. I'm persuasive. I'm idealistic. I've got this. Let's do this. Very focused, single goal, single direction. Don't want to look at anybody else's viewpoint. It's always just what I want right here. They need to convince others or talk them into something as opposed to just letting it go. Challenging people and getting in the way of things that are taking place. That's a Vervain situation. Vine is for dominating dictators. Power hungry, arrogant, cruel. I said, do it. That's a phrase that you would hear from someone that is a vine. Good for animals that are bullying. Again, another one that's good for animals that are bullying. Bullying. Indications are intolerant of non-compliance, my way or the highway, intimidation tactics, heart issues. They need to be feared and followed and revered. They have characteristics of vervain, but it's not as charismatic. It's not like you really want to follow the vine. Drill sergeants, materialistic, those are all indications of vine. But when you get into that balanced nature, they are good leaders, they're effective teachers and effective parents. Sometimes it's just there's a little bit of an emotional imbalance there. And since the flower essences work on emotions, great tool to use. Walnut, I mentioned earlier, walnut, elm, and calming essence are the three that pretty much most of my clients get right off the bat. Walnut is for change, and that's why I use it with almost every client, because when they start working with me, they are in a time of change, and having that emotional support to move through that change and those transitions it's a really powerful tool. Those that are stuck, a lot of people are stuck in physical symptoms that they aren't able to deal with. Great to use walnut. I can't even say how much I love walnut for those kind of things. Indications could be someone going through menopause or perimenopause, moving, changing jobs, marriage, divorce, having a baby, puberty, even having new neighbors, something like that. Walnut is really, really good. And when it gets that balanced nature, they're able to move through that transition much more calmly. When I'm working with clients, changing their water intake, changing their diet, changing sleeping habits, it's a lot of change going on. And we try and trickle it out so that it's not all at once. But even for some people, one change is a lot. So that's why walnut is something that I use with most of my clients. Water violet. Those that like to be alone, they appear that they think that they're superior, but that doesn't mean that they think they are. It's just that they appear that way. Find confrontation a waste of time. It's like, I'm not going to do it. Need to be alone to sort things out, being very self-sufficient. They prefer to work alone. They rarely show emotion. Tension headaches can be physically rigid or too tolerant. I'm not going to rock the boat by arguing with you about this topic. Let it be. And they end up with a more balanced nature where they can serve others as counselors and teachers. They're diplomatic at helping with confrontation. So it's not that the water violet is bad in and of itself. It's just a balanced nature is important. White chestnut. This is another one that gets used a lot. I have so many clients that say, I can't turn my mind off. Sleeping briefly, or they're waking up and then their mind is thinking about something on and on and on. And then you're like, okay, I got to do this when I get home. And then so and so needs to be picked up at this time. I wonder if they remember that. It's all of those to-do lists in your mind, grocery lists, or reliving things from the past. The white chestnut helps me sleep through the night, and it has helped many of my clients sleep through the night if mental chatter was the issue. Frontal headaches, sleeping briefly and waking frequently, brain feels agitated. White chestnut is beautiful for that. You can end up with a clear head, good night's sleep, sleeping through the night when you have been having those types of issues. Wild oat is awesome with larch. So wild oat is those people that feel unfulfilled, don't have goals. And I always think about, you sow your wild oats when you're young so you can find your path in life. Wild oat helps with that. So when some physical indicators of wild oat are unfocused eyes, like you're looking at something and it's not focused. Overeating and sexual problems all can associate wild oat. They're frequently quite talented, but don't know how to focus to use their gifts. They might be job hopping because they haven't really found what they really want to do. There are a lot of great ideas, but no execution. So white oat is really powerful. And larch, remember, that is the one that gets people unstuck. So unstuck from being dissatisfied. So wild oat's a good one. Wild rose is apathy, resignation, end state. So end of life situations for animals and pets. Wild rose is excellent to use. I don't care, whatever is something that a wild rose person would need to have. No hope, no participation in present circumstances, dull companions, surrender to whatever. Yeah, whatever. I don't matter. It doesn't matter. Their balanced nature is they're more actively interested in life. They accept responsibility for their own life and take initiative and make changes. So wild rose is really a dramatic change from the poor state to the balanced state. Willow, bitter, resentful, blames others because of bad events, moody. I don't know why she gets all the attention. You must have been blessed by this. Holds a grudge, victim mentality, materialism, and even low back pain. And I find that interesting because low back pain tends to be kidney issues because people aren't drinking enough water, but kidneys are fear. So willow and fear can go together for some people. Willow, you could call it the mean girl who resents anyone else getting something that they can't get. Holds a grudge, those kind of things. Their balanced nature is amazing. Forgive and forget, not victims anymore. They're controlling their destiny and not at the hand of fate. That's all of the Bach flowers. I use them frequently. As you can tell, I use all of them in different circumstances. There's some I use more than others. But when it comes to flower essences, most people would find the flower essence at the store, and this isn't a flower essence, but it could be a bottle this size. It could be a bigger bottle. But they tend to be kind of expensive because it's a very concentrated thing. So what you do is you use spring water with it. And for each ounce of spring water, you're going to do 2 drops of the flower essence. So it's not like you're using a lot. When you get a flower essence blend set, you're going to be using very little of that over time. You don't need to use it concentrated. There's no reason for it. But you want to do that. I like putting it in a colored dropper bottle. All of mine are in a green bottle. And you're going to fill it almost to the top almost to like the shoulder of the bottle with that spring water, and then put the drops in. And you can do 2 to 3 drops of any of the desired ones that you want. Maximum I would use would be 7. Typically, I would use 6. And you're going to take it 5 times a day at the beginning. You can take it whenever you want. You can take it more frequently than that. But like I said, in the mouth, in food, water, on topically, it doesn't really matter as long as there's contact. I would say 4 or 5 drops is typically where I see the maximum benefit. If you're tired and it's in the middle of the night, you wake up and you need some white chestnut that's in your blend, just do a squirt in your mouth. It's all good. Doesn't matter. And like I said, you're not going to hurt anybody with using these. I've used it on that 6-month-old and we saw good results immediately. You can use it on elderly. You can use it in pets. We had used it on our neighbor's dog at one point because he was so lonely when they were gone. He would bark, 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 bark. And what we did is we put a little in his water, and when they were gone, and we would say, "It's okay, it's okay." And he would start, wagging his tail, and he realized, oh, okay, there is somebody paying attention to me. And so that was really fun to see a dog see that benefit. And we got a benefit because we weren't kept up all night. So I hope this has been interesting for you. I love working with my clients in a holistic manner where we are tackling the emotions and the physical. We're not just leaving it to the physical symptoms that are going on. As you've heard, a lot of the flower essences are beneficial for physical symptoms. But I think looking at that person holistically, and they're not just a physical body, they are emotional, spiritual, physical, your environment matters, all of that. And so we want to address that when I work with clients. So if you're interested in working with me, I'm Dr. Kari Barron, and you can look at the information in the notes below and get in contact with me if you'd like to schedule a discovery call and get things going to get on your road to health, because I'm excited to work with you and I would love to educate you on how your body works and what you can do to take control of your emotions as well as the physical. God bless.